And I will say that for all of you, since she named Opportunity Youth United, the CORE Network is one of the founding sponsors of Opportunity Youth United. Right. And Tim Gunn serves on the National Council of Young Leaders of Opportunity Youth United, as does Jamil Alexander, sitting there. And we will, at the end of this, invite all of you to invite all of your graduates to join, when they graduate, Opportunity Youth United, so they can be part of the movement the CORE Network has played a key role in creating the foundation for. But that's not what we're going to talk about. Mostly, we're here to talk about the power of the CORE movement itself, the experience that the young people have that is sacred to them, that is transformational to them, and who they want to bring it to and what changes they want to make in it to make it even better for all of the young people that they care about. So I'm going to start with Luis to share his experience.
Thank you, Dorothy. So for me, part of being part of this conservation movement, part of being in the CORE it was a transformational thing for me to be part of this, to be part of something bigger than myself. So I began, working on the conservation crews back in 2015, and I was learning so much about what it meant to work in the forest reserves, what the different connections in the ecosystem meant. And it seemed like a very simple thing at the time, but even stretch circles for me, every morning, no matter what. And I think this is a universal thing for most conservation crews, is that we get in stretch circles, we stretch, we talk. I think Harley mentioned we plan out our day. And this was something that's, it's very simple, but it got to me in a way that, I was able to talk about, things about the day. Hey, a crew leader would ask, how's your day going? Or what do you want to do for the day? And they would lay out what we would accomplish for that day. And like I said, it's a very simple thing, but it also it drilled into me what it means to center yourself and plan your day and think about what's going to happen for the rest of the day. And so this was mirrored in, once I began school at UIC, this was mirrored in conversations that I participated in about social and environmental justice, so that once we got in these circles, I was like, this feels very familiar. And so it was kind of because of that, I transferred those skills about being centered and knowing what I want to say into these bigger dialogues about social and environmental justice and what it means to fight for equal rights, for equity, really. Yeah.
How many of you have what Luis is describing as a stretch circle, what Harley described as a safety circle? How many of you start your day with that? It's evidently a great thing, so keep your ears open, those of you who don't have it. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
How did you feel respect in your CORE?
So, respect in the sense that, we listened to each other. That was the time to listen to each other. And then even throughout the day, hey, I noticed, you weren't very expressive this morning. People listen to each other in that sense. And that's just like I said, it's a very simple thing and it's very basic, but it goes so far.
And it builds the community, which this whole conference is about.
Yeah.
It helps to build it.
And so to even expand on that, after I began those conversations, those dialogues in university, I took that with me to my neighborhood. So I think I've made it very clear that I'm very proud of being where I'm from the southeast side of Chicago. I carry this pin with me on my chest because this is made by a friend, my best friend, who serves with me in my youth organization. We start fundraising. It's an angel carrying the Chicago flag, and it's about love, because we have love for our community. And we have love for what we do. We have love for everybody in our neighborhood. And so I carry this sense of respect, and I carry this sense of love for everybody in my community. And because of what the CORE gave me when I first started participating in these stretch circles, I took that with me everywhere I go, and I still do.
Awesome.
And I'm here today.
And so I'm going to pass the mic, if you will, to Alexa, who wasn't on your program. So you don't know that she is a, what do you call it, a site supervisor at the YouthBuild program in Texas. And so Alexa, would you share what you want to share about the inclusion and respect for all people?
Thank you. So I had a friend who used to be involved in the Corps, and she didn't have full access to communication. Her organization didn't recognize her needs and didn't provide an interpreter for her. It was really sad to me because she could have been an amazing asset to that organization. Like, look at me. I have been provided with full access to communication, and now I'm a crew leader at a construction site. I can be there for the YouthBuild students. But they need someone to relate to, someone who can identify their own needs, someone who can create space for them, and I know how they feel. And now they're excited to work with me because they see me and they see a person who understands how it feels to have barriers and have the same experience as them.
How did you get the interpreter in your program? How did you get what you needed?
I asked for it. But I do want to mention that some people may feel like they can't get an interpreter. So an organization or a Corps should be able to step up and say, yes, I can help you. I can provide these things for you. Don't be worried about it. You can make it happen because you never know what you're going to miss out on.
So your advice to all of the staff and the leadership of these corps would be what?
Listen to what people need. Do your research. Make sure you know your resources. Reach out to people. If you don't know what you can get done, reach out to other people because maybe they know. Do something. Don't just sit back and say we can't.
You heard that? Don't just sit back and say we can't, right? Now that's something Alexa has never sat back and said I can't, right? She steps forward. She asks for what she needs, and then she gives back. But in case somebody doesn't ask for what they need, we need to be tuned in and ask them what they might need to find what's in their hearts to step forward. Is that fair to say, Alexa?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask Tim to speak from your point of view about how much you want to reach these opportunities, to whom and how.
Okay, Tim Gunn, and I'm definitely going to speak on reaching the opportunity youth. I've had the opportunity to be a supervisor over a crew of 17 to 24-year-old youth, and just seeing the challenges that they've experienced and being able to relate to some of the challenges they experience. I've been incarcerated before, and I don't know if you could tell, but I'm not just a product of my incarceration, but you know, I'm dang sure gonna make a difference when I can, you know. And a lot of those youth, they don't have the opportunity. They didn't have the opportunity. So me being an advocate, standing in that gap to be able to bring opportunity to them is one thing, right? But then another is being a voice for them while they aren't here. I would surely like to say that the youth back home in Charleston, they have many different talents, and a lot of it isn't displayed, you know, up front, you know, because they're written off because of maybe their criminal record, maybe because how they look, how they dress, or maybe just because of their age. But me being that person who, you know, got Corpsmember of the Year for 2016, being able to be on this stage and just being able to just share, you know, some of their experiences. You know, how I plan to just reach more is not just allow, you know, my criminal record, but be able to go into those, you know, places like in prisons, you know, because most prisoners, they're written off because of their record. They aren't able to get a job. They aren't able to get benefits to help them. So when they come home, they aren't, you know, able to be rehabilitated back into society. So, you know, just like the Corpsmember of the Year for 2015, J.R. Nadine Daniels, he was a supervisor at the program that I was a supervisor at. He came in prison while I was incarcerated. He shared a story of how he got Corpsmember of the Year, how he was able to make a change in his life, and how the opportunity was there to present itself. So what I did was, you know, I followed a great leader, and he set the example. That's how I was able to get in this position I am in today. You know, I made a choice that day when I went to that meeting with him. You know, it was actual a Bible study. I could have been doing anything. I could have stayed in my room. I could have watched TV. I could have been gambling, doing God knows what. But I was like, you know what? I definitely need a change in my life, and the opportunity was there. You know, I spoke with him. He was like, man, when you get out of prison, just contact me, man. Just contact me. Reach out to me, and that's what I did. And a lot of people in the community, they're not educated about these opportunities. Some of them are already there, but when you can educate the youth about being able to join these things and them to gain that trust, you know, because that's extremely important. You can tell them about, oh yeah, man, you can do this, do that, do that, but you know, they've been let down so many times in their life, you know. So to gain that trust and that respect, you know, I had to earn it. JR had to earn that from me. Because the first day at work, I'm looking for him to mess up. Like, man, this ain't gonna work out. I'm like, I already know this is just one of those schemes. So it sounds too good to be true. But you know, I stayed with it, and I was like, man, you know, he hitting every point, man. He's staying on top of it. So, you know, I looked up at him as like a big brother. He passed away from epilepsy, from having a seizure. So that was a really tough time in my life. But, you know, I'm for surely going to keep the fire burning when it comes to being the advocate for people just like me.
I'm going to underline some of Tim's themes because we may want to return to them. One, the outreach, making sure that everyone knows about this opportunity. Outreach into the prisons and outreach by someone who is trustworthy to the person they're meeting. The creation of trust, once someone joins the Corps, the building of trust and how he tested, you know, out that situation. Didn't trust it at first. He came to trust it because of the way he was treated, because of JR as a role model. And Tim, would you add a little bit about, now that you're a supervisor, how do you make it your business to win the trust of the young people coming in?
Man, that's the first thing first, you know, and that's, if they take that initiative to come to show up, that's a huge step that can't be overlooked, because some of them don't have a automatic form of transportation. Like that's just square one. You know, what you might think is a given for you, for some of them it might just take all day just trying to figure out, calling around just to see if they can get a ride. So for them to take that initiative to make that first step, or even just give me a call like, hey man, I might need a ride in the morning, you know, that right there, that me stepping out of what's quote unquote the supervisor roles, going extra and beyond, just to show them that, listen, I want you here as bad as you want to be here, you know, and that's what it's all about.
That's profound, right? Stepping out of the boundaries of the role, doing more than the young people expect, surprising them by how much you care, because you're going to step out and get them that transportation. You're not just going to say, oh, too bad, see you next time, right? Sorry you couldn't solve your problem. You're going to do something about it, and they're going to say, oh my God, nobody ever cared about me that much before. I trust this guy. I trust this program. I'm going to give it my best. And that's what you bring. You give them your best, they give you their best. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add to that? But that's what you're,
Yeah.
that's what you're
Being available.
And we found that to be true over the decades, and so I'm just repeating it. The staff need to be trained to be like Tim, to go beyond what they think is their job description, so that the young people are surprised at how much they care about them. And Lashauntya, I'm going to throw it to you to say more about what it is that a lot of the Corps members actually need, and what the Corps can do about it.
I'm Lashauntya. I was a Corps member years ago. We're not going to get into that. But I agree with Tim in the way of I believe in meeting people where they are. I believe in, for my own personal experience as a Corps member, my program was good for me because it set me on this path. I know I would not be sitting here if it was not for Earth Conservation Corps. However, there are certain things that I wish they would have done when I was a Corps member, and the biggest thing is like wraparound services, because I signed up, so I want to be here. But it's hard for me to focus on what is going on at this program when at home the house is on fire, when I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna feed my kids and how am I gonna pay for daycare and put Pampers on everybody's butt, you know? And if the program is targeted towards opportunity youth, and you know that we have these issues outside of your program, then why not offer services to help me to focus when I get there? Like, I want to be here. I want to give you my all, but it's hard for me to do that when I have so many other things going on. And then it's discouraging when you come to your leadership and you're saying, they're like, well, you're late. And I'm like, I have 2 kids, I'm trying to get them daycare, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, I need help with this or help with that, but there's no resources. And it looks like I'm not serious about what I'm trying to do. And so I think that if you are gonna offer your program to opportunity youth or kids from a more disadvantaged, I hate that word, but disadvantaged background, then you should also offer the services that will help them be their best person, just period. And also, you know, once the program's over, I think that a clear career pathway is a must. Yeah, I did great. Thank you, Core Network. I'm here. So I'm happy with mine, but everyone does not get that opportunity. Everyone does not know what all entails conservation. It's not all about picking up trash or, you know, chopping down evasives. There's so many different aspects, and people have the skills, but they don't know that this is what's offered to them. And just one more thing, and I'm gonna be quiet. One thing for me that was difficult was the pity aspect. Okay, yes, I'm poor. Yes, I'm black. Yes, it's this. Yes, it's that. But when you bring in people to the program to meet these young people, don't start off with, look at these po kids. You know, like, that should not be the narrative, you know? I think that I've had issues in the past with being introduced with the more unflattering parts of my life. And it's not that I'm ashamed, because I'm not. Everything I went through got me here. And I'll talk about it. I'm open. I'll talk about it, but I don't want to be known as Lashauntya Moore, mothers on drugs, brothers in jail, welfare mother 3. That's not who I want to present to people. Give me the chance to tell my own story, you know, let people are coming here because they see the hard work that we've put in to this program. So let them see that. And if they ask me questions, I have no problem saying, yes, I grew up in a rough neighborhood. Yes, I had my kids young. Yes, I did this. Yes, I did that. I have no problem, because the results of all of those things is the completion of this great project, you know, so. No more pity parties, please. No more pity parties, please.
So we're going to move from pity to respect. Right? And respect for what? Say a little bit more, Lashauntya. What kind of respect do you want the young people to get?
I want the young people to get respect for what they already naturally are bringing to your program. You know, a lot of them haven't been to college and they have all these different things going on. However, they're smart, they're capable, they're showing you because they're there. You know, respect these people's skills. Help them to bring out what they already have naturally. And I think that's the best way to show respect to core members, letting them know that I know you got this in you, and I'm gonna help you bring it out. Not I'm gonna pull you out, I'm gonna empower you, not that. It's I'm gonna help you see what you have and give you the foundation to push it out yourself. So, yeah.
And I will add that respect, it doesn't mean that you do nothing, because respecting the intelligence of the young people who enter the program means you respect their ideas. You listen to them, you call them together into group advisory councils or policy councils, and you ask them the key questions that you need answers to that will make you run this program better, because they, from their perspective, know more about a lot of things than you or we who run programs know, and they are extremely smart. So the respect for the intelligence does mean that you give them power, but it's not like you take credit for giving them power. You listen so that you can do a better job because they know things that you don't know. Is that fair?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Dorothy. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I feel like a core member leadership partnership is a big thing. Some programs do have like a core advisory board, but a lot of times, in my own experience, they only talk to you about rules when you break them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I feel like it's easier for core members to buy into the rules when they help to set them. I do know that you have to have some core rules. If you're in a AmeriCorps program, you have to do this, you have to do that. That's great. However, when it comes to the day-to-day of what these young people are gonna have to face, they should have some say in what they expect. And then those members hold each other accountable. So, respect people, that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll go to Harley. Would you want to start with your own story about a advisory council?
I can. I was going to touch base on what Lashauntya and Tim, I want to talk
Okay,
about
go
that
ahead.
real quick.
Yep.
About showing up and being there, even if you're late. I know through the California Conservation Corps and other corps, we teach discipline, and we want core members to learn disciplinary, I guess, skills that they can take on to their careers. So one thing that we, I guess, look up to, or a saying that we go by is, early is on time is late, and late is never accepted. So, but if you do, look, what I've learned as a crew leader is core members that are late, but they still show up and show that effort, I don't like to focus on that negativity. I like to focus on, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up and making that effort, whether you're late or not. You're here because you had a goal for that day, and then you accomplished it by showing up. So I just wanted to add a little bit on that. Just keeping in mind, being mindful of whatever obstacles they had to go through just to show up here, even if they are late a couple minutes, that shows effort. That shows growth, that they want to be here, they want to grow. And so that was basically it a little bit. On the core member advisory board that we have in the California Conservation Corps, I wrote down a legit definition that I'll like to read to you guys. So the core member advisory board, we call it CAB for short. So the CAB's mission is to cultivate core members to participate in the public life of the center as a democracy, to use their rights and to discharge their responsibilities as an elected representative with the necessary knowledge and skills. So these core members that take on these CAB positions, such as president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, sergeant at arms, crew representative, volunteering coordinator, fundraising coordinator, and so the list can go on depending on the center. You can add different positions to this advisory board. They are nominated by their peers, who people think that they're best qualified for this position. So it's not, sometimes it's them actually taking initiative and wanting to take on this position that I want to be treasurer. But it also takes a surprise to core members when their peers say, hey, I think you're going to be really good at this. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to put your name out there. And it makes them nervous, but it also shows them that they can do it whether they see it or not. A little bit more about the CAB is the CAB are core members, is a core member government, governs each other and at each center or satellite. It's a group of core members elected to a term by their peers, like I said, exists at all centers and satellites. So every single center has this core member advisory board, and any concerns or questions or maybe ideas and upcoming plans are addressed during these meetings that we have on a regular basis, weekly basis, and then that gives liberation for core members to be heard by the staff or directors and supervisors to make change and make the working environment healthy and making them want to be there. Because if you don't like what you're into or what's going on, then you're not going to put energy and positive reinforcement to try making this better. Sometimes they're like, oh, it's not me. That's not what I like. But if they're willing to change and shape and form different policies and ideas and events to the core members that are active in these conservation corps, they will be heard, and the staff is open-minded to listening to them.
Thank you. So we're hearing about a kind of continuum here, from the position where the young people have no idea that this opportunity is available or that would be good, to them discovering it because someone reaches out and makes them aware of it, and we want to come back to that, all the different ways to reach out, to them testing out this situation and discovering that they can trust these adults because they're treating them with respect and because they care about them enough to go outside the bounds of what they expect, and because they care about them enough to make the resources available for them to help them deal with their own reality, and they respect them enough to ask for their input on the improvement and the implementation of the program, and they give them a pathway into leadership. And they give them money, a stipend, the living allowance, and they give them meaningful work that changes the world. So let's talk a little bit about the meaningful work. How important is the environmental work that you do in the Corps, and anything that you want to say about that? Any of you at this point, and then we'll come back to you on some of those other things. Anybody want to speak to that?
I think that I worked in an urban program, and the work was important because it was right in my community. I saw the change every day. I saw how it was improving. I liked the fact that the program recruited from the community. So we took an ownership because this is where I live and I've made it beautiful. And now I'm not gonna let anybody mess it up because this is where I live and I made it beautiful, me and my friends, you know. Instead of us just kicking it all the time, just hanging out, we're doing something that's improving ourselves and improving where we live. And then that opened up other people's eyes. I think the Corps that I was in, we mostly were a word of mouth Corps because our friends saw us out there doing the work and they're like, dang, you seem happy and you're doing something and you're, you know, and the neighborhood looks great. How can I get involved? So For me, that's what's important.
Yeah, definitely. Lashauntya, I definitely relate to what you said about, working in your own community. I mentioned in my speech that during the summer of 2017, I worked on a crew that consisted of high school kids and leaders, including myself, all from the same part of the city, all from the same neighborhood. And that summer, it was all the high school kids, and I was the assistant crew leader. I got to work with these kids, and my younger cousin was in it too. And so it wasn't just like people didn't know each other, but man, these kids all went to the same elementary schools. They were mostly, for the most part, in the same high school. So it was a very tight community. And so that summer, we started off real slow, and so towards the end, that's how we became a family. And now years have passed. This is 2017. It's 2020 now. I'm reaching out to them and asking them. No, I'm sorry. They're reaching out to me and asking me to edit their personal statements for college. Wow. And here I am. I'm getting ready to graduate college. They're getting ready to graduate high school. And so that's just how important is environmental work? This gets at a larger scheme, and giving the high school kids the experience of working on a conservation corps crew, and being able to guide them and mentor them even beyond the crew, that's how important that is, and that's what resonates with me.
I hear one word: value. And that's extremely important to me, because the value is, it raises, it almost makes you feel, it makes you feel better, And one thing I really want to fix or to help build up is, when you go into let's just say an impoverished community, first thing you see is how it looks, how run down some of the buildings are, how, I want to change that. I want to bring up the value in the community, so it won't be like, oh, we're going into a bad neighborhood, lock your doors. I don't like that, first of all, because, growing up in a community like that, you see a lot of trash, overgrown, abandoned houses. But to be able to fix up all those houses, bring up the value in the community without having to overcharge the residents just to live there. You see what I'm saying? So that's one of the issues that comes into place, because, you see, some people see the value and say, you know what, they don't deserve this because they can't afford this. Once I make this the value where I want it to be, that's exactly what happens. The people who can't afford it, they gotta go. So I definitely want to bring up the value, but allow that value to be able to stay within the community, so that way they can maintain and also not just look impoverished, but be able to live in that community and be able to be treated fairly, but not just because of how the buildings look.
Go ahead.
Speak on that question.
Speak on it.
So I'm from California, so those of you that don't know, and as you know, we've been battling with wildfires, and so there's a lot of burnt forests. These trees that are standing and they're dead, they're actually doing the opposite than when they're alive. They're seeping out carbon dioxide. So we're on projects where we're constantly dropping dead trees, but we could be in a forest that has some diseased trees. It could be an all burned forest, and we're constantly cutting these trees down. I am a sawyer, so I also help train and teach new coming Corps members on how to safely operate these dangerous tools. So one thing I think is important as I'm teaching these young adults that live in rural areas, so on their own time, they do have to cut trees and stuff to keep their houses warm and their families warm in the winter. I want them to practice these skills that we're teaching them at home. I don't want them to bring their practices at home, dangerous practices, to work. I want to enforce also the importance of reading the tree, reading nature, reading the tree, knowing why you're cutting it down. I don't want Corps members or people, young adults, to think that this is a sport. This is not something we do for fun. We don't cut down the forest for fun just because it's a big tree or because it's beautiful or because they can or they have to have a reason of why they're cutting this tree down. And I want to make it known that I do teach my core members and I encourage others to teach young adults to have a reason of why we're doing what we do.
I just want to add something to that. I think that there's a huge benefit to teaching sign language. Like, that can really help. If you can't use your voice in a certain environment, I know you mentioned this before, well, to me, not on this panel, that you're using really loud tools, or what if a disaster happens? Sign language can be really helpful. It's a visual language. So that's a huge added benefit.
So yeah, working around chippers and chainsaws, it is really hard for me as a crew leader and supervisor to communicate with our crew that are right there in the business and this loud, and that we also have ear pro in too. So we do use nonverbal sign language to, indicate safety issues like watch your head, or it's lunch, or, thank you, or yes,
Water.
drinking water.
Water is very important. Water.
Definitely. We were able to connect on that same nonverbal level.
Alexa, how can people learn sign language if they haven't been exposed to it?
There's a lot of different ways. YouTube is available. You can sign up for an ASL class, or if you know any deaf people, just maybe see if they can help you. They would love to teach you. Don't feel bad if you feel like you're not signing well. Deaf people would be really happy if you try. It's all about making an effort.
It's all about making an effort, right? And Alexa, I'm circling back to the beginning a little bit, because you mentioned something in our earlier conversation about how sad it made you that you know so many deaf people who never heard about this opportunity and who had passed the age limit. Would you talk a little bit about that and how to fix that?
Yeah. So I admit, I post on Instagram, Snapchat about what I'm doing out on site. I tell stories like what I did that day, and my friends notice. They've told me, I want to join. How can I make that happen? I tell them my experience, and then it dawns on them that they've passed the age limit. A lot of them are in their 30s, so they can't get access to joining a corps. They've missed out on a lot of opportunities. And I know a lot of them would I'm still trying to figure out how to solve that problem. The only way I can see is to expand the age limit, or maybe get rid of it altogether. I mean, everyone could be included. So, yeah.
Good idea. Anybody agree with that idea? Expand the age limit, right, right. But there is also the other piece of it you talked about earlier, about reaching out deliberately to the communities that aren't hearing about it, and being aware that there are people who are not hearing about it, and so get to them earlier, right? Can you advise people, like, what's the best route to find people? How did you find out about it?
Well, honestly, deaf people tend to be very visual, and Instagram works. Meeting in person is a good idea. Going to their schools. There's a lot of different avenues, but you have to think visually. So try to apply a visual sense to when you're getting that advertising out.
Thank you. I'm going to jump back to the continuum into long-term leadership as change agents that the Corps can provide to all of its members who are so inclined, which will be a lot. Obviously, this group are lifelong change agents. So, Luis, would you talk a little bit about what have you done in your community? You've started your own nonprofit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Do you want to clarify? We did start an organization. We're not at nonprofit
Not
status
yet. Okay.
yet.
It's coming.
We're getting help. We're getting help. So I guess we consider ourselves a grassroots youth organization. We've participated in a lot of outreach, right? A lot of youth outreach, because we understand that a lot of the kids in our neighborhood don't necessarily have resources. The resources are there. Personally, we've never had access to these resources. We've never been able to, nobody's ever sat down and talked to us about what life would be like after high school. We were always taught, you gotta apply to these 4-year schools, you gotta choose a major, choose the rest of your life. When you're 18, choose it right then and there. But as a youth organization, like, we want to work on change that narrative. We're not trying to do all that. We want to be able to provide different opportunities to all the kids in the neighborhood. And providing different opportunities means giving them the chance to choose their own path after high school. And this means providing trade schools, because not everybody goes to a 4-year university. Personally, if I was back in high school and somebody had offered trade school or working for the union, I would have considered it. Or going to a community college. How about that? Going to community college for free. I would see these are the type of things that my youth organization wants to get at. But at the same time, I'm sorry, there's no but. And at the same time, of course, I want to incorporate the environmental aspect, the conservation aspect. We've done a lot of cleaning greens, we call them. Cleaning greens, because what better way to make your community better than literally picking up the trash, right? We've also engaged in community dialogues in the sense that we reach out on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. We reach out and we try to bring people together, young people together, to talk about things in my community, things that affect us, on an individual level. So we talk about the environment, whether that's natural or built. We talk about arts and culture, local business, and higher education. What does the higher education mean? Like I said, trade school or 4-year university. And so that's kind of getting at what we do as a youth organization.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
of course.
you for doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And what's your long-term vision for how that's going to evolve?
Our mission statement is to inspire the next generation and I'm already messing up our mission statement.
We all do that, right?
Inspire the next generation of community leaders from the southeast side of Chicago. So yeah, I consider myself a community leader, and my cousin, my best friend, and there's our board, our group of leaders in the organization. We are the community leaders, because there's always been a gap between being in high school. There's so much support in high school. Support, right? There's so much support in high school. What happens after you go? What happens after high school? Nobody emphasizes trade school. Nobody emphasizes working a really good job, a respectable job. And this is what we want to do. Long term, we want people to be able to care about where they come from just as much as I do. And we want people to be able to come back. If they do go to a 4-year university, we want them to be able to come back and share what they've learned.
How many of you on this stage agree with that?
I do.
I think the words, right, to inspire the next generation of community leaders for the South Side of Chicago, for the United States of America, for all of your communities, is a beautiful mission statement. And so let's go back to that continuum, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens when people leave the Corps? How do we support their leadership? How do we support their pathway into whatever work they want to do, their purpose in life? You mentioned that earlier about the support for their career, for their,
yes.
And you want to say more about that, Lashauntya, how to support people in that way?
I was just saying, having a pathway period. These young people have taken whatever amount of time out their lives, in most cases an 11-month term, and dedicated that time to the program and to bettering themselves. And it's a really hard blow that you do all these great things and learn all these great skills, and then at the end, you have nothing, you know? It's a blow to your self-worth, I believe, because it becomes, then what did I do all this for, you know? And so I think that CORE should be mindful in creating career pathways and starting that first day that person signs up. You should get to know that core member, to know what they're looking to do when they finish. And it shouldn't be a case of you wait until, you know, they're in a term evaluation to say, well, what do you want to do? You know? Yeah, so thank you, Stephanie. Professional development is the key term here. And I don't think it, and then on the flip side of that, it shouldn't be what you think they should be doing. Just a quick personal note, when I joined the Corps, they knew I had a big mouth. And so they, they pushed me out, you know, to talk and to fundraise and stuff like that. And I did it because at that point in my life, you know, I had drunk the Kool-Aid. I loved the Corps. So I'm gonna do whatever you asked me to do. But I will say that I wasn't necessarily comfortable in that role at the time. Now, I run this mouth all the time, so it's fine. But I wasn't necessarily comfortable in that role, and they didn't take the time to see if I was. They just was like, you're good at this, you're gonna do it, you know, or whatever. And so take the time to get to know that core member and find out what it is that they want instead of putting your ideals on them. And that's a great way to start a pathway to a career.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's add something to what she's saying. I guess it's important to make clear to the core members that their last day working in the Corps, as they make that transition onto after their term, is not the end of the conservation relationship. So that's, I think, what we're really trying to key into is how can we keep a tight-knit relationship with core members after their term. And I don't mean to brag, I am proud and prideful to be a part of the California Conservation Corps, and so I'm going to share our story. We have actually recently made a position, an occupation, just for this, for Corps members. They're called the navigators. So they reach out to Corps members right when they start. They keep in touch with them throughout their term, tight-knit on goals, personal goals, career goals, and then also as they transition, and also being successful in those goals, leading them into the right direction, getting in contact and networking with the right people. But after their term in the Conservation Corps, we still keep in contact, giving them recognition and being proud and spreading word on their success stories. And if they're not immediately successful, keeping them bright-eyed and hopeful that their time will come, and they also keep in contact with these navigators so that way after the Corps they still have resources, because it just doesn't end after the Corps.
Doesn't end after the Corps. And it starts on day one to be asking people, can I help you shape your life plan? We used to call it in YouthBuild. Where do you want to be in 10 years? In school, in your job, with your family, with your community, and you keep building that throughout, and you meet about it regularly so that people's vision shapes. Now, I got the 2-minute warning, so in these last 2 minutes, I want to do two things. I want to say one other piece of what can come after the Corps, what I said at the beginning. You can have all your Corps members join Opportunity Youth United. They can go online at oyunited.org and join to get newsletters from Lashauntya about what's going on. And if you think they are the people who have already stepped up into leadership, that they are a community leader, like the people on this stage, you can nominate them to be appointed a community leader in Opportunity Youth United, and then we will join you in making opportunities available to them that they might not have known about. Maybe they want to run for office. We can send them to the New Politics training. Maybe they want to learn about facilitation skills. We can send them to the training. Maybe they want to join the Reconnecting Youth campaign as a local team leader to bring more resources to their community so that the Corps can expand and bring more young people in. They can join that. So think about that, and you can get in touch with me or Tim or Jamil. Jamil, raise your hand, stand up. Right. And Mary Ellen and Lashauntya, and we can build that pathway with you into the long-term leadership. In addition to what Haley is saying about, Harley, about the importance of providing them continued support from the local Corps into the path that they want to take. Now, I want to take 3 appreciations from the audience. Oh, wait, before I do that, Tim, would you like to say something about what would be valuable for young people to join Opportunity Youth United? How has it been valuable for you?
Oh yeah, just building those relationships, man. That's my brother right there supporting me, you know. And then also I want to recognize Larry Bratton back there. He's supporting me all the way from Sustainability Institute. And he just, you know, I also want to point him out because he would probably kill me if I didn't mention his name. So let me, I had to mention him. And he's one of the reasons I'm here on this stage right now. And just building those long-term relationships that never fade away, and just being in rooms like this and spaces like this to be able to open up and you know, hear our voices.
Well, let's underline that as another element. The long-term relationships, the mentoring, the caring, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, all of that, intergenerational, interracial, inter-everything. People caring about each other makes a difference over time. Thank you for bringing that up again.